Someone's knocking at the door. Someone's knocking at the door. Somebody's ringing the bell. Someone's knocking at the door. Somebody's ringing the bell. Do me a favor, open the door and let them in. Oh, child, let the beautiful people in. Someone's knocking at the door. Somebody's ringing the bell. Someone's knocking at the door. Someone's laying on the bell. Do me a favor, open the door and let them in. Oh, child, let the soulful people in. Pauline Williams was my twin. Elijah and Malcolm still our friends. Brother Martin, we can't forget John. Bobby and Megan, Louis Armstrong. Lord, now y'all let the folks in.
Hello and welcome to Spotlight, recorded live here on Grapple Patreon. I'm Benno.
And I'm Gareth.
That was a long setup for a joke that would only pop me, but welcome.
I was going to say you were very pleased with that one, I could see.
Not Paul McCartney, sod wings, mate. That's not the proper version. Billy Paul played it. Oh, there we go. Of course it is. Played it 3 times now, sorted. But there you go. That's what I think of when I think of Louis Armstrong. I think New Yorkers think of being trapped in Queens. If Bix's little letter to Post Wrestling has anything to tell you about. But yeah, how are you doing today, Gareth? Here for another show here on the week of Gareth we have here on Grapple.
I was going to say full-time job this week, mate. Yeah, way things go, but it's just too hot. I can see other people there saying in the chat about like how hot it is. Like I was just saying to you there off air, just try to just sit in the garden and read a book and have a beer, and literally just couldn't. I couldn't even last longer than 45 minutes. It was just the sweat just wringing off me. Like it just too hot. Complain when it's too cold. Complain when it's too hot. Good old Britain.
That's life. That's my life, pretty much, as you did say to me. It's just, again, it's not the heat, it's the humidity that's killing you. So hopefully people can get some fans set up. We're not set up for it in the UK. Oh, we have got a nice bit of aircon here that's working, but we'll try and keep it brief enough so that Gareth can survive the 2 hours here. So I'll jump right into the plugs. Like I was going to say, speaking of hot, I think there's a tie in there. There was some heat, there was some flames on it, and we did record Ultima Lucha premiere at the weekend. Obviously, if you are listening to us on the free feed, we also did a weekend preview on Friday on the usual weekend show with me and Gareth talking AEW leading into this pay-per-view, mate. But yeah, like we say, it's been a busy week for you and a busy, fun couple of shows we did over the last couple of days.
Yeah. I mean, that Lucha Underground show, I'm guessing a lot of people probably haven't got around to listening to it yet. When did that drop? Was that yesterday? It was yesterday, yeah. That wasn't it?
Somehow, yeah. Feels like a whole year has gone by, doesn't it? Like, since then, yeah. We did it early, didn't we? And then this is late, so it is all very confusing.
Yeah, I was going to say, it feels longer ago than yesterday, but like, one of them shows where you come off it at the end and you just feel like, oh yeah, I was just made up with that. Like it was a great experience watching the stuff that we needed to do. Great experience on the show. We had some great analysis from Sophia, the Queen of the Mountain, whose choice it was, and we got to chip in along the way as well with our thoughts on all kind of random bullshit related to it as well. So yeah, just had a belter of a time yesterday. So yeah, look forward to that one if you haven't listened to it yet.
I felt proud. It was Sophia's choice, and she did amazing as always. Great pick. And obviously, it's the season finale of Lucha Underground season 1, so just episodes 38 and 39. So we've left the water clear for us to potentially do the other ones at some point, Gareth. But I did feel like a bit of a proud dad watching. You seem to love the Lucha Underground, and even Matty loved it as well after putting up a bit of a fight on covering it. I understand it's a long series, so it was hard to find a way to put it together. But yeah, Sophia absolutely made it work, and like I say, or more coming as well. We've got a Raw Roulette coming out next weekend as well. If anybody fancies jumping on for that one, I've decided now we'll fix the wheel, Gareth, which yes, we were supposed to do yesterday. Thank you, Platt, for pointing it out on the pre-show. Still haven't done it. I imagine we'll do it on the intro to the weekend show on Thursday for patrons, because I haven't set it up tonight either. But there's only so many it could be. Like if you're a Platt or you're a sicko out there, just like watch Raw episodes. I think it's like episode 48 to like episode 96. I think they're the 1994 ones. You'll find it. It'll be in there somewhere. But I'd say, even if we tell you on Thursday, it's an hour's homework in it, Gareth. So a bit different than what we've been doing the last couple of days.
Yeah, and knowing Platt, he could sneak in a full year of Raw by then, couldn't he? Doing his sicko's homework there, I'm sure he's should be no problem. But yeah, looking forward to that one as well. I just enjoyed so much last time. It wasn't so much almost like the actual matches and things like that. It was just the little sidebars. It just takes you on, isn't it? It's just the random person that you sort of see and then go like, oh God, they were on telly at the same time in that year and things like that. Just proper like the head fuck stuff and things. So yeah, definitely looking forward to see what the wheel spits out this time.
Great stuff. Well, yeah, that's coming up, obviously. And like I say, weekend show with Matty very early on Thursday. He's got some bits to get in on Thursday afternoon, Gareth. So we'll figure it out as we go, as well as Raw Roulette. And then before you know it, we'll be on to June, and we might even have something World Cup themed come up in June. I think everybody is going to enjoy. But that's the plugs out the way. I was going to say, I'll mention FPL, Gareth, but we can do that at the end. We don't need to talk about it. I lost Jamesy one. Congratulations, Jamesy. And congratulations to Paul and Connor for being promoted as well. But
How did you do in a non-draft? Did anybody beat you in it?
Yeah, several people, mate. I was 7th in the grapple league. There were 6 people above me, but I didn't catch the names. There was somebody who was a couple above me, but I didn't see, mate. He maybe
any
that was the thing, by the way.
Any Cumbrians? Name begins with G, maybe.
That was the thing as well. People could tell, and they could tell in the chat, but on the Lucha Underground show, as good the time as we were having as it got closer. That was at 2:30 deadline. Me and you were both just like eyes off screen, like, okay, what? Stala's starting? Oh fuck! Oh, maybe I need to get Bowen in because there's no City players playing. And yeah, you picked me, mate. You did. You picked a better captain than me, and you fully deserved it. I was top 10k in the world until that. Maybe it was like game week 30, something like that. Basically, when the business end of the season, I did the full David Moyes. When it came to like, okay, I can use all my chips now. I should do nothing but climb. Europe right in front of me. And I literally went backwards and got outside the top 100,000. But next year is my year. But again, congratulations to Jamesy. Commiserations to James Taylor and poor Jeff Ogden, who got relegated to the second division. You might have to be the admin on that next year with Connor being promoted. You know, to use the website, and I'm not sure anyone else in that league does. But we'll figure it all out, and hopefully we'll get you in the Premier League next year, mate.
We'll get there. And what a run Connor had there towards the end of the season. It was just like it looked for all the world that Gerpy had number 2 promotion spot just sealed completely a couple of months ago, and Connor's just gone win, and just like come up and sneaked it on the last day. I think he said the only time he was in the top 2 all season was the last day of the season. So yeah, belter stuff, Connor, with the right way to do it. Just sneak in there at the end and get the win.
Good man, proud of him, man. Less said about those Tarkovsky DEFCON points that gave Jamesy the win. I'm not bitter at all, but honky tonk got honky tonked. It's fine. I earned it after the last year or so. But yeah, join us, Grapple FPL. Jump on the Discord if you fancy joining the league next year, at least in the championship. But say we'll get into it. We've got AEW Double or Nothing to talk about. Managed to watch the main event almost live this morning. Actually, I'm joking about the New Yorkers, but like I got up this morning thinking, there's plenty of time for the main event. Whole show was already on my AEW. It was like the full 5 hours and 10 minutes or whatever it was. So I must have missed it by a few seconds, but I went back, watched the rest of it today as well with some buffer and wheel. I'm getting on there. I need to find out your magic, mate, to get that thing to work. But like me, maybe we'll start off with that main event, and then we'll work through the rest of the show. I did send you a little WhatsApp message to say gotta make sure you see that little Foley segment on the pre-show, to which you answered you've already seen the entire pre-show because you are a completist, and I do respect that. I've seen that to myself. But yeah, great start to the night. Great tie into the main event. Made the main event feel like an even bigger deal. Great use of Foley leading into it and using all of the comparisons with Darby Allin and all of that stuff. Shame it wasn't on the Dynamite, but the buy-ins are a good place for it as well, and it set us up very nicely for this main event.
I think so, and I think the way that it's set up on like my AEW and things like that it's just like you press play and it goes straight into that. Like I was forgetting that they do that, so that's why I ended up watching it. Like normally I'd be like, I'll save it to the end. If I run out of time, it doesn't matter if I've not seen the pre-show before we record. But yeah, just given that it kind of just gives you that feeling, I'm guessing most people who look to watch the show on my AEW, they then find themselves sort of watching that pre-show, or at least sort of skipping through it, and they would presumably stop when they see Foley and see MJF and see Darby and things like that as well. So yeah, it was a good use of him. I think he largely sort of came across well and things. I think sometimes it can be a bit ropey with you bring in a big name and they don't know the history, they don't know the stories and things like that, so it feels a bit off what they're saying, and things takes them sort of a couple of months to settle in. But he felt okay. He was talking about Mox had told him to sit back and watch Darby Allin at a show like a while ago and things like that as well, so it showed that he had that kind of like historical thing there. He put the company over, as is obviously gonna do, and things like that, about bringing his love for wrestling back. But then getting to work into something that felt important on a pre-show for the first time in a long time, really, other than when they've done like the crossover from the end of the pre-show into the start of the pay-per-view. It probably felt like the most noteworthy buy-in in a long time ever, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it literally, like, I caught it and I was like, okay, even if I skip the rest of the buy-in, which I did end up seeing, I've got to see that. I've got to see what they did there. And it's not always great, is it, when you're like, it's very, like, Raw in the 90s, isn't it? Wheeling out Steve Austin 7 times in a show. Like, you want to save your pops for your main event, and you don't really want to see the main eventers before then, but it was well worth it. It was well worth whatever. Hit that took, and there wasn't a huge amount of hit, because about me tuning in and throwing that main event on, I was fiercely blown away by, all jokes aside, how great the venue looked. It looked incredible on camera, and mostly how loud the crowd were as well. So little bits where they went in directions I probably wouldn't have wanted them to do, but I feel like they were even heated up by that and gave. It felt a very AEW crowd. It felt I've seen a few people make this comment, like AEW's taking New York now. It felt like proper, because that hasn't been guaranteed the case. I've been to kind of New York, New Jersey twice for AEW shows, and you do see a lot of WWE fans, Roman Reigns t-shirts, that type of thing, and it never really felt like the hardcore of the hardcores like the Northeast is kind of known for. But I think you got that here, and I think Foley was a great tie into kind of that bygone era. I literally captured some of that like ECW / Rebel spirit, didn't it? And it kind of fit perfectly with what the show was.
It definitely felt like that. And, you say there about the venue, just as soon as, obviously, you're watching the buy-in there at the start, and it was half empty, really, wasn't it, when Foley was coming into when Foley was coming down the aisle, because there was still people filtering into the building, obviously bringing him out first. But like, they were even loud then, weren't they? When the stadium was only like half full at that point.
The sickos. That's Renee stole from us.
You could really hear that atmosphere come across there, and then just to that sort of like alternative side, like Foley threw in his little line about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, didn't he? Kind of thing, thinking he was probably going to get himself a cheap pop there. Got booze, wasn't it? The other way. So he looked surprised, but then it did make you feel like, this is a pure AEW crowd here. Like, so again, just slipping into Bizarro world there, where he can't lean on his just dropping the name of one of his old mates, kind of thing, just to get a bit of a pop there. He's gonna have to work a bit harder in the future weeks, old Mickles.
He knows now. He knows. Can't just point at his daughter every week and try and use that. But no, it was great. It was again great to see like a proper New York set, and I feel like that was captured in again even the branding of the show, like the little subway signs and stuff like that. It all felt very New York. Again, it's yours for the taking, Tony. New York. It's no longer the Fed when we say those words, but like it ties into the main event. Darby coming out with all of that stuff. Being around New York City and the little bit of branding there as well. Like obviously MJF. Again, using on the pre-show, bit of cheap heat and a bit of cheap heat on his intro as well to make sure he gets booed for the most part, which doesn't always happen when we're in the Northeast with MJF. But set us up nicely, mate, for the main event, as we said, with the on the preview show. We were maybe a little bit not 100% happy with the TV leading into the show, but we're very happy with this particular story. It's definitely carried the TV overall, and we can talk about did they stick this landing or not when it comes to the main event. I mean, I've got to say I enjoyed it more on second watch than I did first time watching it back. I don't know whether it's wiping the sleep out of my eyes or what, or maybe it was the surprise of how, and it was like 11 in the morning, but the surprise of how quickly the finish came in it as well. But I felt like they built this really well. I think like they went straight away, Darby mile a minute trying to get the pin fall by headlock takeover. You had that very early spot where he crashes and burns off the dive, which, to be honest, watching second time, I was almost a little bit more sympathetic to some of the match because it felt like he never fully recovered from that. I feel like that and a couple of the other big bumps in on the show, specifically the one they build to it, the tail end of the match where he does the coffin drop off the stage. Like, I think it wasn't even a work. I think Darby was legitimately hurt and was legitimately, like, there were a couple of spots I noticed on second watch where, he goes for the coffin drop at one point and then MJF is kind of just lying there on the floor. So he gets off the top rope and goes and grabs the headlock again. Even leading into the finish, it felt like maybe the timing was a little bit off, but I don't know. Maybe those rugged edges kind of add to the story, the overall story of this entire feud has been. Darby is, a car crash dummy who's, taking a lot of punishment, and it was eventually going to catch up with him. And I think even with those rough edges, even with, I would probably say this being the very good version of this match versus maybe the great version of this match, we can get into that. I think it completed all of those aims and it completed the story. And really, yeah, this was how this story should end. And MJF going over for most, clean, really. The super tombstone and the headlock takeover himself made sense, with this entire story. And when we can talk the post match and all that as well. But yeah, were you satisfied with this as a conclusion to this great story? And yeah, we can talk broad thoughts as well.
But mate, I absolutely loved this. Like, I really, really loved this. Like, I thought it was almost like for perfection for what it needed to be, and like in terms of the way, the story that they've been telling over the last few weeks and months with Darby having the title, and then obviously the frequency of the title defenses and things, which obviously they made a point of and on commentary and things, getting that over as well. The the level of wear and tear that is add on him. Like, this was one where I was thinking, like, I don't want it to be too short, don't want it to be too long, kind of thing, and it felt like they just pitched it just right, like time wise, here with the two. And then I just think that Darby probably was in a lot like hurting a lot genuinely, kind of through some of the stuff there. I mean, that I think that was the roughest landing I've ever seen Darby Allin take. And if you think how many how many ridiculous spots we've seen him do. Like, when he landed there, I was like, in the moment, I was like, is that it? Is he fucked, kind of thing? Like, the way he's at the floor there, like, it was it was genuine kind of like fear on his behalf with that. But then I think once he was up and it was okay, he's sound to go on. Just the fact that MJF just worked into stuff there, like, he's like followed it up with the powerbomb on the apron, followed it up where he was just like going after his neck. He did that like powerbomb backbreaker that he does. Obviously Darby missed that coffin drop on the apron, and then MJF immediately sort of followed up with that package pile driver on the upturned ring steps and things. So again, it just, that built into me to the, I don't know, like, almost like reality, brutality kind of thing of thing there, where he has absolutely fucked it on that dive, but like MJF's not working safe with him or anything like that. Really, is going and he's attacking that neck as he's good, he's going to do in them situations, which I thought worked great. But I just love I love the chemistry between them. Guy, I'm not a big MJF guy. A lot of the Darby Allin stuff is like things that you sort of have for sort of like that pulp level of entertainment and things that comes with it with some of the spots. But generally in wrestling, like, I hate sequences where people are just going for like a ridiculous amount of like pinfalls and things like it. Like that, it drives me mad. But there was that 100-mile-an-hour series of where there was like near falls where they were both sort of started with the side headlock takedowns that they were both going for, and they were into like the different range of pinning positions and counters and things, and then it finished up with like Darby hitting the code red for a sort of a 2 count there. They got like a big near fall, and then they just sort of, at that point where that came further on in the match, and they just sat sort of looking at each other across the other side of the ring. I was just like, that was brilliant, because it was absolutely seamless, that sequence, and it was worked at such pace after everything that had gone before. But then at the end of it, you could clearly see that they were absolutely like buggered, the pair of them, looking at each other, like, and you had that kind of vibe of like, fuck, what have I got to do? Like, he's nearly killed himself with his neck, and I've attacked the neck, sort of thing. And Darby almost been like, shit, like, I can't steal one on him here. I can't pinch one on MJF here. He's like kicking out of everything, and he's working at speed. So it just gave it that real, I don't know, that extra layer of depth and things like that maybe I was surprised about, and maybe not expecting to see in like a Darby Allin MJF match as well, really. So that was sort of the jumped out sort of as a real positive for me overall in that one.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with a lot of that. I think the reason for me why I go very good rather than great It was more the closing sequence spots. It was more, once we got to that point, it was like the camera spot just didn't work for me. Like, clearly MJF has been watching as Benno and Hamlet and aping Hell in a Cell in 1997. Although Tony was at Shivani, was like, oh, we've never seen this before in wrestling. Come on, Tony, make sure Undertaker have done that at least twice. But anyway, I assume he wasn't watching that stuff back in the day. But just the long kind of break of that and like the emphasis on the cameraman, which I didn't really think was needed to be there to get them to the stage. So again, we're talking, very good versus great, still very good. And like even the stuff with like MJF and the Clippers and stuff, and him threatening to use on a Darby, that was maybe your one moment where they like reminded you of that stip, and that's a question I'm going to have for you. Did the stip add to the story or take away from it? I think we were at least I was critical of it on the weekend show, but the positive you could say is it gave it some doubt, even if in the end it was, the red herring that we kind of thought it was. So there was that as well. And then really it was the particular finishing sequence. I think, again, maybe this is just the expectation levels of this Darby Allin title run, where I was just expecting just that little bit more. And MJF catching Darby on the top rope and crotching him being the thing that led to the tombstone. I just felt I imagine these two brains could have come up with something more creative. Maybe I'm missing something in the story. I guess it makes sense, again, Darby crashes and burns them from the tombstone and then gets beat with the headlock takeover. But I don't know, I maybe just expected a little bit more there. But, considering Darby had jumped off the stage and Darby had, like you say, almost killed himself on that suicide dive, maybe, I'm just to say this. But, that was just with it being the punctuation on this entire run. I thought maybe they'd have another two things there. Maybe it'll come out in days. There was other stuff and Darby was really hurt and I'm going to come up like a massive dickhead, but I wouldn't want it to get that lost. I still very much enjoyed the match, and it does feel like it was overall very, very well received.
Yeah, and I think as well though, working into the finish, I think the thing that definitely worked and added to it is that I think the blood to the back of the head of Darby. Like I think that was something that really connected with me, because obviously it was cool to see him use and see Simon mentioned in the chat like how good the scaffolding was on the entrance and things, and you were looking at that and you're thinking, Darby Allin's using that, like when you look at that. But it did look cool, and then when you see him like looking up to it, you're like, okay, like here we go. No air of star, but coming full circle and giving it the cactus jack bang there. But just because of that blood and that again, just the back of your head kind of thing, like it. That been different kind of thing, like it just that I don't know, it made it feel a bit more like, oh, hang about, he's landed there previously, sort of thing. Like normally you're seeing people like juicing middle of the forehead, kind of, then your blood running down the face. That just made it just feel a bit more like dangerous, almost, that the blood's coming from the back of the head rather than the front. I think then when they were back in the ring, and I think there was a 2 count that Darby had where he did the coffin drop and he's like lying on MJF, and then all that blood's pissing out of the back of his head onto MJF's chest, kind of thing. Again, I just thought that was a great different visual almost, to see it sort of pouring from there, and then obviously that then led into the Scorpion deathlock that Darby couldn't hold, and obviously like passed out as well. And I think you had like MJF grinning down the camera at that point, but it didn't feel like hokey over the top MJF too much. It kind of felt like, okay, that's without being subtle enough kind of things, that you not too over the top, that it was something that you could appreciate from the heel in that situation as well. So with that, I think working into that finish, it kind of felt justified to me that Darby would get caught and could get caught in that scenario then. And again, a tombstone from a second, that should be the end kind of thing, and it was, and especially should be the end when you've put your opponent in a situation where you've battered his neck basically for 20 minutes in all sorts of different ways, and he's battered his own neck in all sorts of different ways by trying to do stuff like. And I got to the end of this and I was just like, exceeded my expectations massively for where I thought that was going to be. So couldn't have been any happier, really, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. Maybe some of that's like a victim of, AEW. Like, you see everything, that happens in these previous matches and everything that happens to Darby. Maybe I'm getting worked in the moment. Like, I don't believe that can possibly be the end because of, everything that's come before. So, yeah, maybe it'll sit better with time. But still great work. Still I mean, we talked about it on Weekend Show. I promise this is the last time I'll say it, but like we haven't said it on the free feed. One of the all-time great AEW title runs, and in spirit, ended how it should, didn't it? And like again, it's going to be remembered much more than Samoa Joe's 2 weeks with the belt or whatever. I'm sure it was like 2 months with the belt, or some of the other AEW World title runs that we've had over the years. Like this is going to stand the test of time. It's going to be something we're going to be talking about for years, isn't it? And yeah, my God, like just incredible body of work from Darby, and got a nice little thing for him to sidestep to now as well. We can get to, but just to talk Darby, AEW World Champion. Never thought it'd work. It fucking worked incredibly. So fair play.
Oh, it worked a treat. Like when you say there about something that we'll come back to and talk about and watch. I've already got that. I've already got the graphic in my head, mate, of Darby deep cut kind of thing and the world title run kind of thing. Like in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, go back and visit that. And I'm just thinking there as you were talking. I wonder if this maybe landed slightly better for me than you as well, because of the way that I caught up on TV on Thursday, Friday at the back end of last week, just to make sure I was entirely up to date. Because I watched a month of AEW in that 24-hour period, I almost felt like as exhausted as Darby Allin in terms of like I was watching him kind of like break down over a 24-hour period as the matches got more and more like intense, and he defended it again and again, and he was on screen and again. So I almost felt like I'm coming into this feeling like I'm watching a broken man, because I've literally watched him break his body against 7 opponents in 24 hours there. So I did kind of have that feeling of like, yeah, this is somebody whose body really is hanging by a thread here, and like maybe can't take anymore. So I think that I did that for a bit further depth to it there. But all time you talk about transitional champs, I think I alluded to this on Friday. This could be the greatest transitional run of all time, really. If you think about getting a short title run, can't think of anything much better than this. And like you say, there just tied up. So he's now got something else to focus on because of the post match angle.
Well, I mean, with that said, what did you? And we'll, when we talk about the all time runs, we'll just forget the Sammy Guevara match. Just leave that off the mix to make it sickos or something like
good
that.
Good enough.
Yeah, Sammy Guevara, though, it can never be good enough. But obviously, like you say, it does lead into the Kevin Knight angle that took place after the match. Again, maybe that's part of it. Expecting that to play into the finish or to be a bit more consequential than it was. I don't know on this one. Like, again, watched everything back again this afternoon. Watched it that second time and still don't really 100% understand it. I think Kevin Knight will make it work as far as a promo goes, doing it post-match. And I guess, we're not pretending he didn't have all that beef with MJF. So, he doesn't necessarily want to hate MJF. Maybe that's, where they get to the logic for it. But yeah, interesting way to do it, having him come out at the end, typical pro wrestling, pretend that he's coming to, like Darby did earlier in the show, be the valiant babyface, but actually he's going to take on Darby. I just, again, question his timing a little bit, but how did you think it was received? I thought it was a little bit worrying, and it's happened a couple of times when Kevin Knight's made run-ins. People just don't react. Like, maybe it's wrestling, it's Pavlovian dog stuff, isn't it? Unless the music plays, people just go, "Who's that?" It's just a bloke coming out, isn't it? So, like, that was maybe a slight negative. And then, like you say, the big dive onto Darby, onto the stretcher. We'll see as far as like Kevin Knight moving up the card, which obviously this signals, and they absolutely need another interesting upper mid card level heel, and Darby could definitely do with something to pull him away now if MJF's going to be, setting himself up for Ospreay. But yeah, what did you make of it? Were you surprised? And I guess we did talk on Weekend Show about the possibility of him being involved, but probably wasn't on my list. This being how they did it.
Yeah, I was surprised how it happened. I was surprised sort of when it happened as well, and that there was no more obvious element to it as to why it happened sort of on the evening. Again, I guess it's one of those, we'll sit down and talk in a week's time and you'll be like, oh yeah, and he's explained why and justified it on Dynamite and blah de blah, and that's the reason. But in the moment it didn't quite land with me either, this one. I think it's something that we've been looking at and probably expected that it would come on Mike Bailey rather than here in this scenario as well, for the Kevin Knight turn. He definitely got I think with the way that his work this year has been like impeccable. So he's certainly somebody that I'm like, yeah, well, I'm happy to see them, continue to put him in a scenario where they're going to, put the rocket behind him a little bit and give him more opportunities. And I think he's seen enough tendons from him so far that he can kind of step into that heel side of things, and he's got sufficient charisma and things that he can probably pull that there. But it just felt off timing wise. Sort of, it didn't feel like it needed to happen now, and it could have been
another thing.
It probably could have been more impactful to be something that, I don't know, when Darby's cutting a promo on Dynamite or something like that, or some other scenario or something, that then it could happen. It just sort of felt a little bit tagged on here for me.
Definitely. And again, I'm still excited for the prospect of Kevin Knight getting a proper show. Again, excited for the prospect of a well pushed, middle of the card / upper middle of the card heel. Like, that is all stuff I'm excited for. But you're right, the speedball side of it as well. Some were expecting him to turn. Maybe he'll go with him. I can't picture a speedball heel run, but maybe, or maybe, most likely he'll be the babyface that gets taken out or questioned.
Janetti.
Did it? Yeah, probably. He looks a bit like him too, doesn't he? As well, hopefully he has better long-term health than old Marty. But yeah, don't know. We'll see how that folds out. But yeah, something for Darby to do post that story. But I suppose rewinding back, we talked a little bit about the pre-show with the Foley segment before we get to the rest of the card. Do you have any other thoughts on the pre-show? Anything stand out? Pre-show Eddie Kingston turning up. That was my biggest take and his geek mates. But hey, there we go. And it's not even all of the company. I think we're past the days of just burying AEW for Eddie Kingston. A lot of it's Eddie Kingston too, but still disappointing to see.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we talked about that particular match, like the Shane Taylor promotions against the Conglomeration and Boom and Doom on the preview show on Friday, and again we were always like, oh yeah, always a good time, Boom and Doom, always get the crowd going and things like that. But I think this was the worst variant of that match that we've seen. Really, just didn't. I feel like it didn't land as well with the crowd. I mean, you had the amusing QT Marshall slip off the top rope, which got a good buzz out of there with the Vita Coco all over the place. But then, yeah, seeing Eddie Kingston come down, and you're like, oh, really, this is what Eddie Kingston is now, kind of thing. And it kind of is.
A Seamus Coleman, mate, a charity run-in just for a little bit of a clap in New York. Should be a bigger deal, shouldn't it? It's just it's a shame, really.
100%. That just sort of felt a bit off there. Mance Warner coming down was he not booked elsewhere?
Probably was, to be fair, doing double duty.
Ortiz with him as well, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot Ortiz is on the roster. Like, I don't know, that all just felt a bit off for me. But I mean, the other stuff that was on there. I mean, Divine Dominion getting their win, what they've been doing, doing the 5-minute challenges, kind of. I think it's about time though for the tag champs to have a stronger opponent, and whether or not they're running there at the end of Ty Mello and Anna Jay's the right opponents for it. I'm like, I don't know. I was kind of open for something maybe a bit better there than those two when it comes to a tag story, but I guess it maybe sort of shows where the women's tag team titles are sort of positioned in Tony Khan's mind at the minute. Death Riders Ops was what you'd expect it to be, solid as a rock, 3-star special, kind of, enjoyable enough, but without, nothing to hate on it really, nothing to love on it really. Just
I can hate on Bowens being in the ops. I'm allowed. I can still do that. What's he doing?
I think he's. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Anthony Bowens. I think there's something there, and I think I've seen his visual presentation alongside the ops. I thought, oh, okay. If he doesn't succeed here in this sort of environment, then that's it. I think as far as it goes, because I definitely think there's a in-ring upside to Anthony Bowens here. But yeah, nice to see that he's changed his gear and he hasn't got that shitty little kind of that vest jacket kind of thing that he had as well when he first turned babyface as well. That weird top sort of thing that he was wearing. Yeah. He's looked a bit better here as well. And if he's mixing it up with alongside sort of Shibata and Joe and things like that, it feels like a better leg up for him as well. So yeah, it feels like a bit last chance saloon really with him.
Definitely. And we said that about, the people on the other side. Willie is obviously, made lemonade when it comes to being in the stable. But Garcia looked a bit lost, in the early days. He's sorted his gear out. I like the little double act with Utah. There might be, I was writing him off earlier, and there might be something there. Bowens, I just don't trust his instincts. Like, you're totally right. When we had chats about him before, because he, as part of the Acclaim, got something so over. If you're a booker, you give him a chance, don't you? You go, all right, mate, go on, do it again. And the 5-2 player stuff was never going anywhere. The Billy Gunn stuff was never going anywhere. And anyone could see it a mile off. I just don't know about his fit for this group. And I just don't trust his instincts with, what he kind of wants to make work here. So seems a bit of a square peg in a round hole for me when it comes to the hard man group. But again, if I'm the booker, do I give him the chance? I give him the chance. But I don't see it moving anywhere positive myself. But open to, and I would be happy to be surprised on it. But yeah, unless you had anything else on the pre-show, like I say, must be tough being Ortiz following Eddie Kingston around and everyone just chants Eddie. No, doesn't even chant for the team. He'd just be Eddie Bloke, couldn't he? Out there with all the Warner, as Eddie says. They're in the chat, but yeah, not much else going on in the pre-show outside of Foley, which again was lovely to see. But that takes us into the main show. No match bleeding over to the main show again. So glad to little bit, tick in the box there. Let's just do that when it's appropriate, and I think that's a good way of doing it. But took us into the pay-per-view, which, by the way, we talked the main event there, a very fucking good pay-per-view. I'm excited to talk about the rest of the stuff here, and unbeknownst to me, mate, I was not expecting to be excited to talk about the opening match, but opening match was FTR versus Cope and Christian for the tag belts, and for the most part, I fucking love this. Like, I really enjoyed it. I think they got to a point towards the end, really, when Beth came out. Beth Cope, I think that's her full name at this point. She looked great. The gear looked great, but I could have done without some of that melodrama. I could have done with... It did get a bit cinnery, didn't it, at the end, with basically everyone was cutting promos on each other with the microphones there by the time it got there. But can I argue they didn't build to it? Absolutely not, because... For our weekend show conversation, we thought maybe this has gone off the boil as a bit of a blood feud in the last couple of weeks, at least, going into the show. But you wouldn't feel that from the start. Even Cope had a moody face on when the fucking fans were singing his fucking song. But, made it serious, took it all very seriously. Went straight into like a big brawl. They were all going for each other at very, very early stages. There were a lot of creative spots in there, using the toolbox and, Christian and the low blow stuff we can get into in there as well. The cinder block usage, trying to get Christian to I quit. One for him to throw in the Christian line about shagging Dax's mum, which, in fairness, did get over with this New York crowd. I thought Stokely, obviously, again, was a big part of this one, pulling down the top rope, and that leading to a bit of creativity there when it came to the near falls on the I quit step. And like I say, I had a great time with all of that stuff, and obviously bringing in the chairs and using Cope and bringing back the watch when you mention in there Stokely too. That was a great little callback there too as well. And like I say, it got a little bit talky near the end, but up the violence stakes too with the flaming table and all of that there as well. Stokely taking a hell of a bump through that thing. It looked like he was still on fire as he rolled up the entranceway. And of course, the baby faces went over at the end of it. You don't want really, even if it's Cope and Christine, you don't want the baby faces saying I quit for any reason. But yeah, though Dax and Cash were brilliant in loss. I think this is the best they've ever looked as a team for me. Like, I know that covers a lot of ground, but as far as whole package goes, with Stokely on the outside and just their work as a heel team, and this is the glue holding it together. Cope and Christian being the old vets, knowing where to pick the spots and knowing how to get the ultimate reaction for some of their bad ideas, but for their good ideas too. I think there was a lot of chemistry there, and overwhelmingly, like I said on the weekend show, of course I was going to be saying about the Jericho match later on, I was forced to have a good time here, Gareth, and a good time I did have. Glad I left the house.
Same. I had a fucking great time watching this, and talk about a match to just get you just going and just get you right into the show that you're watching. And a big part of the reason why this match was so good was, again, it was a bit of a product of the environment, because of the setting, because of the sort of the stadium, because of the acoustics, because of the crowd being fucking up for it and as hot as fuck and really engaging in it and things. Like, it just really added to it, and it just felt like you had all these like different elements that kind of come together to just make this work so well. And I think a big thing here is, as well, is like, when you think about that, like, obviously we slag off the sing along with Cope's theme sort of thing, but like, I have to say, I didn't mind it here, because it was a it sort of felt like appropriate. He'd had a huge pop like for Cope coming out. The crowd were fucking molten for him coming out. They're right behind it. So when it's like sing along with the song, yeah, great, because it's this like contained little sellout crowd stadium who were all like singing along at the top of the voices. It sounded great. It didn't sound like one of these Dynamites where there's like 8 people in the crowd still kind of like singing along, and you can hear the echo of it like bouncing off the back wall and things like that. It's like, if you're going to do it, save it for these occasions though, when you've got a crowd like that, and you almost have to just treat it like you know maybe half plan to do it, but if it doesn't feel right, don't do it, kind of thing. Well, if you're not going to do it, but the crowd feels like this, then do it, because
don't do it in Collision in some random Canadian town. There's your line.
100%, because it did work here, and it did work to get the crowd into the match as well. And I kind of just like echo your thoughts really, throughout with the escalating levels of violence. I mean, they got to it quite quick, didn't they, with Christian going straight for the barbed wire like from the off. So again, it showed they almost sort of like injected that heat into the match from the off. But again, I think sort of like the pace that they worked, I think the spots with the microphone, they weren't too frequent to become annoying, sort of thing. They felt like there was enough of them to retain the I quit stip to the match, to keep that sort of front of mind without it becoming a bit sort of like nauseating with them doing it too much. Obviously, give you a chance for a bit of ha-ha kind of thing with Christian, as you say there. But then I think just sort of working up and into the end again when the music hit, and then it was Beth Phoenix. I was a bit like.
Just Beth. It said, "Let's go."
Just Beth. Like I was like, but I was like, fair dues. Like, she is kind of the heart of the whole reason why they're feuding, kind of thing. So they have to, it does feel sort of justifiable there. And then even her getting involved, like it felt like at a sufficient level without being overbearing, even like right down to sort of like the celebration at the end. She sort of felt like she was a bit off at the side and things like that, as opposed to being totally central with it all. But again, great chemistry between the 4 lads, as you'd expect. Red hot crowd, right result. Finish. FTR played the role to absolute perfection in defeat here. Some good different creative spots along the way, and what's not to like. This is, as we keep saying, this is what they should be doing. Kind of been used in this environment to keep them away from the singles world title main event picture kind of thing. Get them here, get the crowd going, sell some tickets on the back of people who are still fans of them in certain markets and stuff like that. You use it here, because this worked completely, and I had a fucking great time watching this. Like, when at the end of this match, I was just proper like, yes, like I'm really ready for this show now. And then and obviously that fed into a great matchup coming next as well. So just really sort of set it off at the races here.
Yeah, it was one of those, like, it was the perfect storm, really. Like, even the things, like you mentioned there, that I do hate about Cope, and less so Christian, but, even, like, using Spike, like, that was... Spike, I can't believe I used those words, but it worked perfectly for what this was. Even the Beth Phoenix thing that you say, I cringed, but also it's a payoff and a payback, a payback to everything that's happened with Stokely before as well. And, the chat's talking about it there, like, very clearly as well. It's not over. We are 100%. I've seen this credited to our good friends over at What Culture. I think we were first on it. They're clearly doing a TLC at Wembley, but we'll share credit if they like. But, who knows? Maybe an incoming New Day, or I get less so an incoming Motor City Machine Guns makes a difference there as well. But I think a 3-way or a 4-way form of ladder match with the Bucks involved as well, I feel like we're definitely circling back around to that. But again, can't argue. Good use of Cope and Christian. Bit of star power with the belts now as well. And, FTR, I'm sure, will still be waiting in the rings. I'm sure they get the belts back before the end of the year. Maybe even that'll happen at Wembley as well. But again, underline it, doing the best work of their career. So, yeah, tag division's got full thumbs up from me. And it didn't feel like that 6 months ago.
Honestly, and then when you're saying there about, like New Day, I know people have their reservations about coming in. But for what this is, for where this is, like, using stars in tag team at a mid-card level to get the crowd going with a certain bit of work. New Day can just slot straight into here kind of thing, and they can be fresh opponents. Obviously, for a couple of these teams, it would work in a 4-way or something like that if they wanted to do that at Wembley. And again, it adds that kind of this is a bit bit different, to the bit of star power further down the card and things as well. So I'm all for that personally. Like if I just think it'd be something that'd be a good business addition to AEW from that standpoint. So yeah, bring it on. If they keep performing like this, and then why not?
Absolutely. I know, appropriate, as you keep saying, point in the card as well. It's not going to be the main event, but it'll be somewhere near the upper card of Allin. I think that's the absolute right place for it. But speaking of things I imagine to rumble on to Allin, we go to our next match here, Okada Takeshita again. If you didn't listen to the weekend show, the short version is, again, another feud that felt quite hot at one point, and kind of went a bit quiet in the lead into this pay-per-view. But again, you wouldn't have known that from the crowd. Tough spot too. Feel like going out second, especially after the plunder match just took place, and just having a straight match where they're here with Okada and Takeshita, especially with a feud that definitely had its hottest point a few months back. I think the lads had an uphill struggle, but they got them again. And we could talk the ring because it was fucking great. Okada, wherever you see him in the card, like as far as an in-ring performer, over this year, I think he's turned his levels up a little bit, especially when it comes to these big matches, go all the way back to Wrestle Kingdom, but thought he was great here. It was a great spot for Takeshita to be in, to go over at the end. I'm still a bit confused what's going on with the Don Carlos family, and, again, internal logic, why they want to turn on Takeshita after the match. Like, I don't really get that. Now that he's got the belt, now you want to take him out, but we can get into all that. Obviously, Fletcher coming out at the end as well, probably means we're getting Fletcher and Takeshita very soon coming up as well. So you got a little off-branch feud there. Maybe the whole reason of that is to take Okada out and do something else with him, and allow Takeshita and Fletcher maybe to take priority as well. But again, as an in-ring match, as far as a chemistry goes, as far as, again, Okada wanting to turn his levels up, I thought this was excellent as well, and I imagine you got a lot out of this one, mate.
I like this. Feels like one that I mentally I almost want to go back and just watch again. I don't know if I was just caught off the back of the sort of the fiery start of the previous match, but this was one that it took me a while to get into this one. It sort of just felt it felt like I wasn't like biting, and I wasn't engaged as early on as I thought I might be. I liked it. I thought it was good. But I didn't love it. I didn't think it was absolutely outstanding or anything. I sort of by the end I was left feeling like, I don't know, maybe I feel like I say this every time with Okada and Takeshita. I almost feel like maybe my expectations are too high or something like that of what I think they can achieve. Maybe I think in my head that they're going to go out there and have the greatest match of all time or something like that. Whenever when they get to it, and I'm almost sort of left feeling like, oh, feels like there was a bit more in the tank there, because again, maybe I'm just conditioned to watching Okada for twice as long as you normally sort of see him in these matches.
I take that as a relief, mate. 18
minutes. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to sit there and watch him for 45 kind of thing, but maybe just sort of feels a bit like, I don't know. There's a bit of, just felt it was like lacking in a bit of depth or something like that to me in terms of the work. Some of the stuff just seemed to, where they got to, just felt like they got to certain things maybe a touch quicker than I thought they would, and they were almost sort of like positioning themselves as being worn down to a certain level, and I was thinking, what, really already? Kind of by that, it almost felt like the work hadn't been sufficient enough early to get to those points. I mean, there's some great stuff in here, though. I mean, saying that, there was that I felt like they got to a sequence that really lifted the crowd. I felt like the crowd went with them all the way, and I felt like that sort of mirrored where I was at with the match, really. But I think it was where there was the package pile driver followed by the wheelbarrow German from Takeshita. That was sort of like into a shotgun dropkick by Okada, and then Okada sort of a short rainmaker, and there was a double down. But that was just done with such impact and such speed and such precision from a chemistry point of view that the crowd, when they had that double down, they were fucking right into it, and then it sort of picked up from that standpoint. I didn't love the whole Don Callis like protecting my asset kind of like involvement as well. That was something that rubbed me up the wrong way, because sort of when he first when he sort of first went in there and he stopped Okada, I was sort of thinking, oh, don't babyface Okada here by having him not do it, kind of thing. That felt a bit wrong, sort of thing. That would be the case, and then it sort of flipped the other way. I almost feel like it should have been Callis in the first instance stopping Takeshita doing something to Okada, kind of like it. Just the heel face dynamic of that didn't like work perfectly. Didn't work perfectly for me, but. Coming into the end, I thought it was it was a good finish. It sort of picked up the pace from there. I think it was good to see Takeshita just get that clean win there with the Rage and Fire for the 1, 2, 3. So again, it was good, but for me it was 4 to 4.25 territory, rather than in my brain for half a year I've been thinking about this 5-star match that Takeshita and Okada were going to have. So that's where it sort of didn't land with me.
Yeah, and to be fair, like I'm saying I loved it. That would probably be my rating, close to that 4.25. I don't think I'd quite go to 4.5, but it was fucking great for what it was for me. And yeah, you have to be fair, you picked up on all the moments that I did love. And like you say, yeah, crowd were with them definitely, at the start doing the chanting, but then maybe, I guess maybe there were some quiet moments early on, but then they were really loud when it came to like, the Rainmaker counter, which was, amazing. Again, to your point, maybe comes early in the match, but that's the point where I think the crowd are with them then, like the sequence of Takeshita getting like the Blue Thunder Bomb and then his own Rainmaker and then the Power Drive knee and then, all leading to the Rage and Fire finish. Like they're with him there, and he looked like an absolute killer. Okada's, selling massively for him as well. And I think it whipped me up into like that same frenzy in the closing sequence as well. But yeah, I thought it was great stuff. But I guess maybe I'm watching it with the eye on it, thinking, okay, well, we're getting a rematch at some point, only for the events of the post-match to happen, which, to be honest, I bought into it. I really thought that we were setting up, Kyle and Takeshita, we're getting a, Don Carlos family black and white versus Don Carlos family red and black, and it's going to be, Takeshita and Kyle are going to be the goodies against the baddies there, and there's all kinds of tag matches you can set up with that, but nope, it's Kyle and Takeshita instead. So I do question that a little bit now. It's like, okay, well, when will we get back to the big Okada match, which is maybe where we are in a bit of agreement, but maybe that could be all in. Maybe it's Kyle that's all in and there's another Okada match before it. I don't know. I guess I'm just glad that we are at least going forward now. Takeshita's no longer in this no man's land and this Don Carlos thing. Very firmly, he is the baby face now. But outside of that, I'm a little bit wondering where we go from here.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because in the last few weeks, they've had Okada. They've been talking about Okada going for the world title, haven't they, on TV as well? Like that's something that they've. Has been referenced in backstage interviews and things like that. So I was just left here thinking, like, oh, okay, it looks like that's it. Takeshita's not in the family now, and he's going to be feuding with Kyle Fletcher, and Okada's probably going to be pointed in a different direction towards the world title picture. That's the feeling I got, sort of, tying together just some of the things that have been said on TV. But just great to see Fletcher when his music hit and he just fucking emerged at the top of the ramp. And
pink suit, he looked great.
Looks like $1 million. Like he looks so good, and obviously he's been wrestling so well prior to the injury. Like right now, having built up all this eagerness for the Okada Takeshita match in my mind, I'm now just looking at this and thinking like, oh, Fletcher and Takeshita just know each other so well, and they're stylistically maybe with Fletcher been a bit of a faster worker than Okada, and then maybe actually these two are the ones that, from a chemistry point of view, they're probably actually going to have a better match than Okada and Takeshita overall. And you're sort of almost piggybacking on the Don Callis family heel face dynamic. They're coming out of it too. It's something that's going to elevate Fletcher, again as we look to move up to the next level. But even like right down to the delivery of this, like you saying there, you bought it. I've got to be honest, I was waiting. I was sitting waiting for it, mate. I still
had me back up. I was still like when he was standing behind him. I was like,
I'm too swerve conditioned. I think. Like, I just think I expect everything's going to be a swerve at all times, kind of thing. It's like maybe I'm just trying to never be caught out. But I just think Fletcher's timing on stuff that he did here with the just sort of some of the little looks that he just gave, and then just like after he did Takeshita, just sort of the slight crouch down that he did sort of over him and things like that. I just think he just gets it of like how to look, how to hold himself on TV. He just moves like a star. Simon saying there in the chat, he coming across as a total star. That whole package from the point he was on screen to the end of the end of the angle there, just he did. It just looks something that again, where we talked on the weekend show about some elements of the TV where you had this world title picture or main event picture and things like that, and it just feels like it's cooled off in a couple of areas outside the Darby stuff. Seeing Fletcher back just feels like a real shot in the arm to AEW right now. That was a surprise to me that he was back, because I didn't know that he was going to. I assumed he was going to be out injured for a bit longer as well, really. So just fucking delighted to see him.
Welcome return, and like you say, yeah, you need that. Again, talking about the undercard, talking about that upper card, the upper mid card, like that slot on the pay-per-view. You could literally run Takeshita Fletcher actually for the rest of the year in that upper slot, and I'd probably not get sick of it. So yeah, I'm excited for what's to come there, at least as far as that matchup goes. And
story as well, mate. All caps.
You don't do stories in this promotion, mate. That's not the storytelling promotion. But yeah, Okada is like a world title contender. I think there was a whole conversation on the Discord about that last week, and I think broadly I agree. It was a one-off, fine. Don't know if it was a one-off versus MJF though. That just feels a bit odd if that's what we're getting. But yeah, obviously anything longer than that, I think I would probably have questions about. As enjoyable as a TV character as he is in his little lane, but we'll see what they got planned. And like you say, they have been teasing it for a little while. But yeah, unless there's more on that, but that takes us into our next match, which. A little bit less substantial, Athena versus Mina Shirakawa, but you surprised me before. Maybe you'll get a bit more out of it than I did. One of the shorter matches on the show. This was in the cursed women's bracket of the Owen Hart tournament, as ROH's forever champion. I think they said Athena is out here with Mina Shirakawa. Like, yeah, Shirakawa targeted Athena's leg. She survives through the figure four. There's good awkward landing in the midst of the match as well. In the end, Athena fights back. It's that big tombstone. Top rope facing is kind of over. Did you get more out of it than this one? What did you make of the selling? Did it meet the grapple Gareth test? And yeah, it isn't exactly in the best state, this singles women's division in AEW right now.
I enjoyed this. I enjoyed it to 3.25 star level kind of thing. So, but again, it's what it was for its place on the card. I've not been someone who's been particularly high on Mina Shirakawa, but I liked her work in this match. I thought it was good. I think with the early on when she was attacking that knee after Athena had hurt the knee, I thought Mina's offense looked really good here. I think with the sort of variation of the submissions and kicks and stomps and things like that she was throwing it in there to attack her, and likewise I think like Athena did, there's some good stuff here. I just always love the aggression that she just works with. It always looks like she's trying to win a match kind of thing. It looks like she's trying to hurt her opponent in all situations there. There was the one spot I loved on that was where Athena caught Mina's crossbody, and then she put her on the shoulders and sort of like aggressively like front slammed her to the mat there. I thought that looked great, but then she was still sort of selling the knee there, and I think that from a selling point of view with the knee, I think largely it wasn't forgotten about for me for the most part. She kept throwing it, she kept throwing it in there. There'd be certain things that she would try to do and not be able to do. She had to come off the second to try and go for the O face like earlier on in the match because of her knee sort of thing. She was slow to climb, which meant that she got countered and things, which I thought worked quite well. Then you did get the flip side of that where she's hitting that fucking jumping tombstone where you're like, come on, your knee's fucked, kind of. Should you be doing jumping tombstones on to land on your bad knee when you don't know if it's going to work and you're trying to win a match? But then ultimately it did pay off. But yeah, I mean, was a little bit clunky in a couple of transitions and things like that. But overall, like, I can't say I had a bad time watching this. I had a perfectly enjoyable match. Nothing about it sort of particularly shit the bed for me in any way. And it just, as we were talking about on the weekend show, I just want to see Athena just go to the end of this and win this, and maybe start to use her as a bit more of a prominent figure on AEW, as they seem to tease over the years, and you never quite get it. Like, if ever there was a time, now is the time kind of thing, where they're desperate for it.
Yeah, and maybe she can finally drop that. Again, she's the forever champion, but there's the forever feud going on there. In ROH, maybe she could drop the belt. Maybe that might be a good. I just feel like it's a negative. You see her with it, and it's just like, oh yeah, she's that ROH one. I think she's unfortunately been tarred with that brush. Give it to Billy instead. But there we go. But yeah, that was there, and following that was Moxley and Kyle O'Reilly. I think another one of the matches again on weekend show we weren't the most high coming into. And again, this is one where I think it was pretty good, but I still didn't really want to see it. I still didn't really want to see Kyle O'Reilly in an extended. I just feel like this entire story that Moxley's told with Kyle O'Reilly, because clearly he's got nothing else to do and he's a bit bored. Like, I just wish he'd done it with someone better. I wish he'd done it with, someone with upside, even if a Wheeler Yuta or, one of your favorites. You could go up and down the roster. Lee Moriarty, you could even put a Lee Johnson in this particular role. Garcia, a lot of better people I think I'd rather see in this role, but for what it was pretty well worked. Jim Ross did his best to spoil it on commentary, but he was fine. Again, another match with some ankle targeting, but coming from Mox this side, he was fighting dirty with the bites to the forehead and all of that stuff. Crowd were still cheering Moxley through a lot of this, because who knows what fucking Moxley is at this point. O'Reilly's offense looked good enough. He was running big stomp in there as well, and took some good bumps with the cutter as well, and sold well when it came to the ankle lock. It made sense, with Moxley's work. It made sense to be the valiant going down fighting babyface, and yeah, absolutely, if he is the babyface, and absolutely, Moxley should get a tap out on O'Reilly after tapping for him so many times. But I still watched it going, wish it was someone else. In fact, I even wish it was Kyle O'Reilly from 5 years ago. Even that, would probably be an improvement for me. But it wasn't bad by any means. It was just a bit of a puzzler for me going into the show, and yeah, didn't really change that from watching it.
Yeah, I mean, as we've talked about, there's definitely someone better who could have been put into this role. But if you're talking about better people to be put into a role, like, can we just take, Jim Ross round the back of the woodshed, please, and just old yeller him, because fuck me, did he
didn't know who Kyle O'Reilly was, did he?
Oh my god, this young kid kind of thing, and Excalibur had to sort of like say who it was, like, or no, Nigel like had to sort of like say his name a couple of times so it stuck. Even at the end, like when Moxley won, he said, "We've got a new champ." And then, like, Excalibur had to just, like, chip in and go, "John Moxley remains the AEW Continental Champion guy." And I was just like, what? Like, why? Like, why do you have to listen to this? If this was, like, it's fucking, what's he called? Art Donovan. It was like, it's like Art Donovan level shit kind of thing. And then you're putting Jim Ross out there just because he's Jim Ross. If this was WWE doing it, you'd be absolutely tearing them a new one for how bad this is. Like, it's adding absolutely nothing at all to the commentary when he comes out. You can sort of hardly string a coherent thought together. Nigel McGuinness, God bless his heart, he tried his absolute best to sort of just tee him up with some like easy questions that he could answer. Like, what might John Moxley be thinking of in this situation? And then he just like giving him a nice easy in to just do some sports reply. But all of the stuff that he talked about was awful. Honestly, he took me so far out of this match that I found it sort of difficult to get into it. And then there was some good stuff in here. I think obviously with Kyle having got the previous 2 wins over Mox with the ankle lock, it worked there with obviously Kyle hurting his own ankle with the sort of the kick against the ring post kind of thing. That's just a nice story beat kind of thing about from where the previous matches have gone to, and a good thing to sort of like lean in and put it the other way. And then I thought Mox's work was really good capitalizing on that with the way again that he was attacking that left ankle with his variation of offense, be it like submission based or throwing in dragon screws or just like aggressive stomps and kicks and things like that. And then on the back of that, I thought Kyle O'Reilly's selling was good on it. Where those things in there where he got sort of a bit of a desperation knee in, and then he was trying to run and give it a bigger knee, but he couldn't run kind of because his ankle's fucked. Perfect. Like that's how this stuff should work. Proper good meat and potatoes, basic basic in ring bell to bell storytelling as a way things go. I never expected for a single second that Mox was going to lose on the pay per view here and not get his win back. So again, I think that was something that sort of fit sort of in your mind there, that sort of capped the level that this match could get to. But just as a start to end bit of business from the work, given that it's Kyle O'Reilly against Mox, this was as good as it had every right to be. I thought, it was, perfectly a fitting of its place on the card, well worked. Just if it had just been Taz on the call at this point instead of Jim Ross, they probably would have just enhanced it, slightly more there. But yeah, like good stuff. Like if it has to be these two guys having this is their feud and having that, this match was as good as it could have been and needed to be.
Yeah, my point was going to be if you have to wheel Jim Ross out. And like you said, you don't. But if you feel like you have to, all right, do me. Yeah? Like, better that than what's about to come next. Because it does feel like that. They go, oh, what match would Jim like? All right, well, we won't give him a flippy match. Let's give him a match that he can sink his teeth into. I'd be terrified that he might fancy the next one. So, yeah, if you have to be on the show.
Divine Dominion would be where I'd be giving him it. Where there's a fucking 5-minute time limit.
He'd have a boss time, wouldn't he? Yeah?
And he'd enjoy that. That's the spot for Jim these days. Throw in a couple of terrible lines when nobody's watching, and you've only got to listen to him for 5 minutes, and he gets to do his big Oklahoma entrance on the pre-show or something like that. Oh. That's there, but like literally, he can't be on TV anymore. It's just not something that should be allowed. It's absolutely just taken away from the product by having him there, and when your other commentators are having to step across themselves and work around themselves to try and make him feel like he belongs and try and make him add some value, that he still then adds zero value. Like game's over, mate. Fucking pack it in.
Agreed. But yeah, you reminded me as well. Like Foley did have a little line in there about the backstage in the women's locker room.
Oh yeah.
Careful, Mick. He's never beaten those allegations.
I was going to say second line. He said, wasn't it? I was like, come on, Mick.
Outside of waving to his daughter, yeah, that was it, wasn't it? Right into it. Careful, Mick. But there you go. I'm sure they're backstage having great conversations. But moving on from there into a personal highlight of the show, Gareth. We had up next Samoan Joseph versus William Ospreay, in the words of our good friend. And you'll have to forgive me there, Gareth. I've got quite a lot here. I might go full Benno and Hamlet or full Gareth on Brett on this one, so you can cut me down and cut in whatever you fancy. But this was exactly what I wanted out of this match. Like, again, it's Samoa Joe in 2026. Still one of the greats. Still someone who can turn it on his day. And like, as soon as I pictured this match, it was like, Will Ospreay, TNA fan from back in the day, who, was a bigger fan of Joe as all as we are, picture in his head how he could slot into a Samoa Joe match. And I was sitting there thinking, yeah, this is perfect. And I think the perfect way I can imagine that happening is like some of those great G1 matches like Ospreay had with Ishii or, people of that caliber. 15 minutes, go out there, tell a nice, tight, compact story and give us a bit of the best of both of us. And that's exactly what we got here. I absolutely loved this thing from the entrances on, like the opened with Ospreay going straight after Joe with the Oscutter. I love that. I'm again not been a big fan of a lot of the Moxley stuff, but all his training and stuff about being ruthless. Moxley stood in the crowd cheering him on like some fan. All of that makes sense. Go straight for the boot scrapes there again, paying off the he's a Joe fan at heart there as well. But he counters they go into a bit of a strike battle, which he manages to beat Joe with a leapfrog, a drop kick. He hits a plancha, a springboard 450. Hello AJ Styles, 100% a nod to those. Then goes for that death ground there thing. I had that literally written down in question marks. Is that what it's called? Okay, I guess that's it's a submission, but like, I love those opening stages of that battle of, Ospreay knowing who Joe is, but Joe still being Joe, and nothing sums that up. Like in those early stages, it leads into Ospreay going for the Sasuke special, gets caught on the outside into a choke. Nice simple spot for Samoa Joe at this point, but fucking brilliant, straight to the barricades. Just absolutely awesome stuff in these opening stages, Gareth, and just brilliant, like, just table setting for the two different styles for what Ospreay's going to do versus how Joe is still an old dog who's going to be able to counter him and is going to see him coming. Like, all the nods, all of it. Absolutely loved it. And that's the first 5 minutes of the match.
I was right there with you when I was watching this from my own living room with that, because, again, perfect way to start this match between these two, tying in again to the things that I've said on TV with the Ospreay fandom about Joe and TNA and him being wanting to become a wrestler, but then obviously just with the Death Riders alignment work there that putting in, again, I thought it was really just got you going, really got you ready for what was going to come with the rest of this match. Just started really hot, and I think then when following on from that choke, as you say there, Joe then having that window after he's fucking smashed his head into the barricade there, to now, all right, you thought you were going to do my spots on me, did you? Right, have a bit now. Have a bit back yourself, like raking his face in the corner, giving him the run and stomp in the corner, like Will trying to fight back with that strike exchange, but Joe just dropping him with the elbow, and then like when he's down, all right, everyone knows Will's neck's fucked. Then Joe's like, right, I'm going to fuck your neck up even more, kind of thing. Just with the nerve hold that was in there, like the neck crank that he was doing there, and he's like proper, like he was twisting his head off there. I love that stuff from Joe, where he's just like, right, I'm going to give you it right back to you. You think you're a tough guy, do you? Kind of thing. I know you're a broken man. I'm going to fucking break you even more here. I thought that was ace. But then obviously then you add Ospreay trying to just sort of work back into almost like his traditional offense kind of thing, because the stuff with Joe, the sort of different style of stuff that he's trying to hit Joe with, they're not quite working, and obviously lands that kind of handspring slingshot, like corkscrew kick off the ropes, drops Joe. But then I know you'll love this spot where he goes for the Oz cutter again, mate. And you get the Joe walk away spot, but like just in a different setting there, it coming off the Oz cutter would have been something that he's hit him with from before as well. I just thought that was it. That was ace, and then just straight back into the senton, into the powerbomb, into the STF kind of thing. It was just like, to me, that was just like layered to perfection there, with that little bit of hope for Ospreay, but like walks away and then just fucking right back on top of him. Yeah, loved the way that they sort of pieced together that middle part of the match there.
Oh yeah, like Ospreay was just brilliant for just fighting from underneath. Like it's the role he's born to play in these types of matches, like you mentioned there, trying to fight back. He almost go toe to toe with Joe with chops, and then just gets Kawada kicked for his fucking troubles. It's just brilliant stuff. Gets countered with the Joe senton, which again, young Ospreay has seen a million times in his life, but is getting caught with it here. It was perfect. You had Ospreay, coming back, trying to get the counters on Joe, leading to the little double down with the, Ospreay again, showing that he's that new, younger, faster wrestler, hit, like you said, mentioned there, going into the corkscrew kick, doing like the kip up and looking like he's finally going somewhere, hitting his own low kicks only to be caught by, like you say, Joe walking away. And again, doing one of those typical Joe spots that you can't get away from. And again, I'm sure Ospreay's been like one of us, as you mentioned there, being caught in that STF, and then Joe's been doing it since like 2004. Like, he's been doing a lot of this stuff very fucking well, but like that Boston into the STF, into like the rings of satin thing he does, like it was boss watching Ospreay being the one underneath trying to struggle and kind of fight out of it, but at the same time refusing to stay down, still coming back when Joe's slapping him, still coming back when Joe's hitting that rolling elbow. And it's like, you've got the struggle established there. You've got Ospreay maybe learning as the match goes on, and you've got Joe still being that wily veteran that can keep him in place. And obviously that all leads to, Ospreay doing again full AJ Styles tribute with the float over into the Stars clutch, which gets a massive pop because it always looks amazing, doesn't it? When Joe's just flopped down the fucking size of him, like taking that there. And obviously I'll let throw a bit in here, but that goes into the first hidden blade that Ospreay hits, which they allow Joe to kick out of. More on that later. But yeah, just fucking the peak of the match at this point, and I'm going wild here in my living room.
When he hit that Styles clash, I was envisioning you watching this. I was thinking like, oh, Benno's fucking going nuts here at this point. After
Didn't even like
that,
AJ that much, as we proved on that mixtape, but I love the move.
Oh yeah, and again, it just feels fitting though, doesn't it? It just feels like a lair, doesn't it, in the match for him to hit that. I know he hits it kind of thing, but to be hitting it on Joe at this point and things, it worked so well there. Obviously hitting that hidden blade and Joe kicking out with 2, removing the elbow pad there. So again, you're thinking, right, he's going to finish it here, but Joe countering it and that fucking snap out, like it's the best power slam in the world, isn't it? Kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the best counter too.
The speeds and where that just comes from, and like it just the rotation. Will Ospreay's always going to make something look better as well when he's taking a move as well. He's always just going to make it add an extra like percent or something like that, something like that. Just that bit of talk to come into it there. So like again, that was boss. You've got Ospreay still having to just try and like build in then his counters to these things that he knows. So obviously Joe's locking in the Coquina clutch and Ospreay going for the old Bret Hart spot out of the corner there, pushing off and rolling there. But again, it's I know Joe kind of thing. It's like I've been thinking about these counters. What if he catches me in the Coquina clutch? What am I going to do? Kind of, to counter it. So I think that worked well, and I think then when he went back to it after the Joe side slam and he put the submission again, I think that was so well done. I thought with Ospreay fading and then his arm dropping the once and then his arm dropping the twice, and it looking like when the first 2 dropped that he was sort of far enough away from the rope to
I bought it
and then it was suddenly, oh no, he's on the rope kind of thing there, as it felt like it was perfect. Like
it's almost an assist from the ref in it, but that was very G1, wasn't it? It's the type of thing you could see Rishi doing or something. Like I'm sure that spot's happened in a G1, but perfect.
Fingernail.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? Oh yeah, like that sequence in the match. The only like negative for me was when it's Ospreay's countering Joe with the La Mystica, and he just doesn't fully get it. But again, proper workers they are. They don't try and force it. Ospreay just gets him again, doesn't he? And then goes for the death ground instead. When clearly that was all supposed to be one spot, but minor, kind of imperfection there aside. But yeah, I love that. I love Joe, as you mentioned there, rolling him up and grabbing the choke. I love the Bret Piper roll he threw in there too. Again, I'm like Ospreay. I'm a fan. I would willingly run into Joe in the corner to get ST Joe'd because I've seen every knobhead from Rocky Romero 1 in 2004 fall for that fucking trick. It's very Bret that too, isn't it? Why do they always run into the turnbuckle in that particular way? Why do all the heels always fall for this particular spot? That's kind of what happens in Joe matches, but I'd be loving it too. I'd be going right for it. And like you say, I love that third kind of hand up. And you're going into the finish there as well with obviously Joe going for the muscle buster. And you could kind of see Ospreay, like you could picture it coming before he did it, but Ospreay popping out was perfect, for the Ospreay character. Great countered into the hidden blade. One's not quite enough. Gets the 1 count kick out, which gets a gigantic, response. And again, perfect spot to use that in. And it takes the second one to kill him. There was definitely part of me that was wanting Ospreay to then pick him up again and do the fucking Tiger Dragger thingy he does, the twirly thing. Like, but I was just like, there's no way. Like, even if he could, he shouldn't. Joe shouldn't take that bump, all big guys shouldn't be, selling, shouldn't be thrown around by even, big guys who are big in their own right by an Ospreay. Like, that aside, maybe there was a part of me kind of wishing for that, but it was like, no, that was perfect. Joe's already got to kick out on a couple of them, and he gets killed by, like, the third one, and it's a definitive end. A perfect kind of, like you say, didn't overstay its welcome. You could have added another 10 minutes there. You could have, went for a bigger match. But for what it needed to be at this point on the pay-per-view and for what, personally, I pictured going into it, ends on the 14-minute, range. And it's just perfect G1 style AEW match. And it leaves you want more. And I want to see these two have another one at some point down the road. If this is all I ever get, I'll take it. But, man, I love this.
Oh, yeah. It was great stuff. And like you say, from a timing point of view, like it could have gone longer. Didn't need to go longer. It's probably better for not going longer, isn't it? You don't want it's probably in fitting for the right type of timing of match that Joe should be having at this stage of his career, but then it still gave enough time for him to still be able to do enough that he could still demonstrate the positive sides that he can, still deliver in this in this day and age there as well. And even that into the finish there with the kick out off the first hidden blade on the 1 count. I was like, the so had me there, but then it's the perfect setup for then Ospreay to be in the position to just immediately bang, like, all right, death shot kind of thing there. You're done, and you're ready for it to be the 1, 2, 3 there. So you still feel like Joe, is in there with Will Ospreay in 2026. I thought he still looked great. I thought it's not, this isn't some washed up old fucking wrestler or something like that. He was like getting Joe held up his end of the bargain to absolute complete levels. He came out of this match without feeling like he'd lost anything to me. If anything, he sort of felt like he'd sort of gained slightly out of the match, just despite losing. I think that 1 kick out as well helped him there. But what a great time! What a fucking excellent match this was.
That's why AEW exists. Matches like this, isn't it? It's totally delivering what we all want.
And I think I say it on every single show that we do where we review an AEW shows, but Will Ospreay is so good. Think of the different types of opponent, styles of opponent that he's gets programmed with and works. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter, sometimes a bigger guy, sometimes it's somebody who's got to hang and fly with and lean on the back of that. He's so versatile, and he always delivers, doesn't he? He always delivers. It's no matter who he's in there with or anything. It's always. You're never left disappointed, and it's what a testament to how good a wrestler he is, that he can tick all of them different boxes in terms of ring style, in terms of timing of the match, in terms of type, size of opponent, and whether he's working in the main event at the end of the show or whether he's working middle of the card here, in a first round of a tournament match here. Honestly, so good.
I enjoy, like you say, it as much as this being, or even in loss, Joe looked good and it was a positive for him. I love them doing the little bow to Ospreay at the end. I think that's very consistent to Joe. I don't think his actual character work in AEW with his booking has been consistent to Samoa Joe, especially in this heel run. I feel like it's been all over the place, really, but that is consistent to what Samoa Joe is. Again, you could absolutely picture that in a G1 somewhere, and I'll meet you down the road, son. I'll get you the next time. Just perfect, absolutely perfect for what it needed to be, and loved every second of it, and made up it happened. Thank you, Tony. I'll save him, Matty. I'll keep saying that.
Clap.
He was watching those ROH tapes, mate. He was picturing this one day. Here we are. But yeah, great stuff, and yeah, that takes us, unless there's more on that, into the next one, which is Bandito and Swerve, the other Owen Hart tournament match. I've got much less notes on this one. Bandito got, a lot of the match, and there were some creative spots in there. I enjoyed, Swerve getting is it the house call, whatever it's called? It was the Stormbreaker. That's the move I meant to mention before. You don't tug on Superman's cape. You don't Stormbreaker Samoa Joe. That's a lesson in life. But, the way some of the spots in this particular match that I think we maybe predicted would come on the weekend show, they couldn't help themselves but be a little bit creative, but I think some of them worked, say particularly the one where Swerve was literally stood on Bandito's shoulders, and with a little bit of, I don't know, gesturing to the crowd from Swerve that he continues to do as a heel, that I would maybe question a little bit, but it kind of got the crowd going. It kind of got him, leading up to his big win and his big finish with the Vertebreaker and the house call to finish it at the end. And looks like somebody who should look like he does. Bandito, as much as we all like him, he's got a certain spot on AEW cards, and Swerve should be further up the cards, but. Yeah, solid win for Swerve, and obviously he's going to be moving on to more significant things, most likely Ospreay on the other side of the Owen bracket. And thought this was a fun match, didn't hold a candle to the one that came before it, but another, solid pay-per-view match, and really something for Swerve to do this month, really, wasn't it, this one? And yeah, kind of at least tick that box.
Yeah, we talked about on the weekend show how it sort of felt quite thrown together and quite, didn't have the length of juice behind it for it to, warrant it as being because
Still don't understand when he went to Bandito's, like, fucking Sheriff Town or whatever it is, like in the Old West. Like, did he already know the Allin brackets at that point, or again, is it just a coincidence they ended up in the first round together? Because they were using that, weren't they, in the video recap as like no, this is a really important feud. It's like, has it been a bit cokey and a bit weird, really, this one?
Yeah, the video package definitely tried to sell it as like it had been some stronger, like deeper blood feud than it was. Whereas actually it was like, this is like a week and a half's worth of footage you've spliced together here.
The last 30 seconds of the ROH pay-per-view, and there you go. So.
But it was good. I love the speed of the start. I thought it was proper 100 mile an hour from the start, which I think I looked at this, and while I'm never expecting that Swerve and Bandito were going to have a bad match, I was like, oh, you're coming in on the back of that Ospreay Joe match that was really, really good there. So this needs to be good here, and you could lose the crowd. I think the pace that they worked at early did themselves a lot of favors to get the crowd on board and kind of keep them up there at that level. I think there was. I think the way that they had things in, like, worked for the match to sort of turn there, where you had Bandito diving at Swerve moving, and Bandito hitting the buckle, and then getting German suplexed into the buckle. Then that gave them, gave Swerve that body part to attack, kind of, and again, so there was that kind of a bit more slower, meticulous, heelish side of work that came from Swerve here, despite his sensibilities of wanting to, fly about the place and want to do some over the top stuff that he shouldn't be doing as a heel. But again, I thought he worked that quite well, and obviously he'd attacked his neck previously, as they showed us in that footage. So again, that kind of ticked that box there, and made things line up here. Again, on Weekend Show, I was talking about how my hatred of the 21 plex, but I think the way that it was worked into this match here, I was like, oh, actually, I like the way they've done this here, because at first you had that first one where Swerve was like playing possum in the ropes, and then so when Bandito came to hit him with the 21 plex from that weird sort of natural position that people have to take, he then hit the flatliner for a 2 count. So I was like, oh, that's good. They've used the unnatural position in there to be a good sort of clever counter there. Then when he did hit the 21 plex, it was when Swerve was face down on the mat, and he got a 2 count off it. I was like, yes. I was like, that's what it should be, kind of, because for one, that's normal for a wrestler to be face down on the mat, so you can hit this move from anywhere, so it works a bit better and doesn't look as hokey. But two, as a feat of strength, it looks even more impressive that you're lifting somebody from face down on the floor to then hit it as well. So that's something that he should definitely work in. But then Bandito's selling was really good on the back of that, because he has to bridge into the 21 plex from there, from lifting him off the floor, and then his neck gives out on him, because of the injury previously there and the bridge. So that works from that point of view. And then obviously at the end, going from it again with from the normal position within the ropes that he does, but then Swerve been aware again, as he'd shown with the initial one that he counters. It's something to be conscious of, and countering it into the vertebraker there, and obviously into the house call for the win. Just, I like the structure of this. I like the little things that they put in like that around the neck and around sort of some of them counters, and around almost like knowing each other there a little bit, despite it being a fresh feud there. I came away from this at the end thinking, Christ, that's another really good match that we've had on this card here. Not like you say, not as good as the one previously, but still in that very good kind of like 4-star territory. I thought this match personally has been at that level. So it just felt like throughout this pay-per-view, from the start to getting up to this point, just feeling like, Christ, what a roll we're on here. Like, probably the worst match we've had here is like the women's match have been like a 3.25 star match. Everything's been at least that level or above, really, running throughout. So I was so high on this, I just couldn't get enough of this pay-per-view at this point.
Definite 3.75 for me, and that's no slight. And a lot of that is what you mentioned there. It's the they went in with a crowd that they kind of had to warm up in different ways, and I think the moments where the match changed speed, I think that helped, and it got the crowd going again, like into the big creative spots. Of course, I'm gonna love going from the 21 plex into that vertebraker, like smooth as silk, as you mentioned there. Great way to sequence it. So it was more a match about its big spots, but I think it arguably needed it at this point in the card, and was perfect for where it needed to be, really, as a match. And I guess my only takeaway from it is, I would like to see Swerve is in a weird place, isn't he? He's like a heel. Like, I can't imagine him getting, lapped by Kevin Knight. I don't think that's happening. Kevin Knight's probably not going to be the secondary AEW heel, but Swerve is in a weird spot, isn't he? As the world champion, someone else, and he's got to operate in the card as a heel that's a little bit lesser than, but also carve his own little corner and be important. And he does feel a little bit like he's floundered a bit this year. So I'd like to see this as a sign that he's going to push on. At least he's getting, you'd imagine the finals of the Owner Forbidden Door. Imagine he's getting that versus Joe, if that is the case. Versus Ospreay, if that is the case. But I'd like to see him do maybe some more significant things post that too.
Yeah, I suppose the good thing is like the tournament does give him that element of focus building up to that point, doesn't it, sort of thing, so they can build something
hides
up
in plain
there.
sight a bit,
and to him and Ospreay, who feel like sort of probably right that they'd be coming together at that time period, and then by which time, following on from that second half of the year, sort of the deck's going to be shuffled a little bit more, hasn't it, with certain belts moving and things like that around. So again, maybe there's a lane that opens up for him in the second half of the year, because as we talked about the other day, it does feel like he's just sort of slipped back a bit, really, in terms of like focus and importance, as opposed to last year where he felt like, superstar. Just feel like he's just losing a bit of that shine at the moment. Yeah.
Well, moving from there into, I guess, main character energy, you could definitely say that about Tekla. You could say that maybe less so about some of her opponents in this thing. But we had next the four-way with Tekla versus Jamie Hayter versus Chris Statlander versus Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's title. And didn't win particularly hot going into this thing. Didn't particularly believe in the other women that were in this one. And I don't know if there were many moments in the match where I kind of changed my mind on it as far as the steam these lot had going in and coming out. But Tekla looked good. I don't know, is that the headline coming out of this one? There were some big spots in there with Hayter in her Haterade. Shida's Falcon Arrow was a decent near fall in there as well. And, Tekla getting a definitive win against Statlander, was good stuff too. Maybe we thought that on the weekend show there'd be a bit more story development in here as well. But again, another one of those matches that didn't outstay its welcome too much. They got about 15 minutes worth of time and kind of just fit its role in the card and really, achieved, I think, to the level of the build this really got, which was to say not a huge amount, but, it was fine enough as far as going into the two big matches on the show.
You see, again, this was one that I sound like I'm probably a bit higher on this than you. Like, I really enjoyed this. I thought the structure of the match, in terms of, you're always looking in a four-way about like things looking a bit like clunky for people being in and out and lying on the floor, and your different combinations that you've got going on. I felt like they worked that like really well, I think, in the way that they got to where they needed to get to with different people in the ring at different times, and the stuff that happened in order to achieve that. But I thought it was one where I feel like everybody came out of this stronger for this particular one. Like, I think obviously you sort of, like you say there, Tekla getting the win and maintaining the belt, and she's come through this and come through another challenge. She looked good in everything that she did on here, right down to the way they used her on the entrance, emerging from the scaffolding, sort of like upside that, like the where the camera was held. It was just like a good entrance and things, but it just gave Tekla again that additional kind of like just a slight more shot of star power, a slight more shot of as being like this, credible person that you've got to beat who's in there with these people. I thought she emerged quite well from that. I think from a story point of view, I did think it worked. From the Shida Statlander thing that they've been working across there. Obviously, you had the Shida going to do a double team earlier on, which ended up sort of like Tekla kicking Statlander in the edge. Had Shida accidentally kneeing Statlander and things. So they sort of built that, worked that through the match. But I just think Jamie Hayter came out of this looking great. Like, this felt to me like, and especially some of the crowd reactions to her, like we've talked about how hot she was when she got the belt and in pre-injury. I felt like she was almost back to those levels here with this crowd on the night, and like the working style here. Like, some of those where it ended up as her and Statlander, and they were knocking shit out of each other, really laying it in. It felt like you're having a proper like beefy, meaty, big person's wrestling match kind of thing, like going on in there. Like some of them lariats that were in, some of them forearms that they were in. I was loving every minute of that, and like I was just thinking, like, okay, you've got the Sheeta stuff lined up here, but I just want to see more of Jamie Hayter and Chris Statlander knocking hell out of each other too, because of the way that things worked across there. So it just felt like it ticked boxes on all four of those areas for me. And again, the Statlander Sheeta stuff, it's a story in a I don't know, in an ocean of no story kind of thing going on in the women's division. So it's something to actually kind of cling to from that point of view. But it does feel like they're pacing things out well, and they're kind of obviously they're going to get to that feud more specifically around those. Like, I'd just like to the issue I have probably is, as we've talked about, is obviously Hayter been tied up into the Brawling Birds, but then in here, she's wrestling not in a Brawling Birds gear again, kind of thing. She's looking like somebody who really is a credible contender to Tekla, and like then it looks like the tag champs are not going into a feud with the Brawling Birds. It looks like they're going into a feud with Anna Jay and Ty Mello and things, and you're sort of a bit like, well,
of course they got their big entrance at the end. Should have mentioned
Alex Windsor's in the Owen as well, isn't she? Like as a singles as well, sort of thing. So I don't know. It just feels a bit like, I don't know, if they pushed the button too early on that tag team there with those, it feels like they're in a bit of an odd space. But I just walked.
The roster's just stretched thin, is it? Everyone's having to do two things really. Everyone's doing two people's jobs. It's like an office where like there's 5 vacancies, and right now there's 2 big vacancies, and it's the 2 biggest women in the division.
Yeah, but like I'd be well up for seeing Jamie Hayter just get a bit more of kind of a push that way towards Tekla, depending on if they're actually going to throw Tekla into some kind of feud from this point onwards too. But like good stuff. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was much better than the match that was earlier on in the card with Athena, and just got me excited about all 4 of them, to be honest.
Fair dues. Well, I hope the Gareth being the high man pattern continues with this next match, because I'm going to need you to be, as we had next our Stadium Stampede match. And maybe, Gareth, watching Lucha Underground at the weekend was a perfect primer for the cinematic universe of the Don Callis family, or whatever we got here in the intro with the cars and the suits and the all of the Avengers coming together on each side. Omega with his little cigar that he was making him cough that you had there as well, and Jericho getting all the lads to high five together and then sing Judas, and then obviously the Stadium Stampede with the crowd singing along and all such stuff. I was saying on the weekend show, the preview to this, I was kind of expecting to get forced to kind of enjoy this, and I've forced fun with it, but I'll be honest, I was sat back with my arms crossed, like I just didn't need another one of these matches right now. I feel like, if anything, maybe that was the feeling I couldn't shake the first time I watched the main event. Like, just there was a lot of the spots here are played for comedy, and maybe it's because the played for comedy is maybe where the point comes in, but it just felt like a lot before you were going to do a match that was also going to do a lot, and a lot of similar kind of violence, almost played for laughs. Some of the stuff with the fucking tennis balls just made me fucking cringe, and there was some clever stuff with the backstage stuff. Davis particularly, I thought, got to look like a bit of a killer. I imagine, even if I expect you to be the high man on this one, you're going to be the low man on Jack Perry and his little bus, which was the little creative spot they gave him there as well. And it was just unnecessary for me, unnecessary fun. Gareth, do not force me to have a good time. That was my note going into weekend show. I kind of felt it coming out. I don't know. I felt like it was there to give Jericho something to do and to give Kenny something to do, even though, you'd imagine Kenny should have more important things to do, and to fill, some time for the lads that were on either side of it. But I don't know. Maybe you got more out of this than I did. I'm not even sure what the consensus on it is. I haven't had a chance to look, but it was on the low end of these style of matches for me, but it seemed like the crowd had a good time.
I think it was the worst Stadium Stampede or Anarchy in the Arena style thing that AEW have ever done. I was like actively bored at points.
Donnybrook and Doncaster Oh yeah, go down in the hole.
Yeah.
We won't go through that again. Gang banging Grimsby. Let's not do that. Yeah.
All of those. It felt like the most creatively lame, I think, of all of those.
It was like everyone in it had done all their good ideas. The Bucks and Kenny were like, "Oh, would you just do that one again?" Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, go on then.
Because when we were talking about it on, weekend show, we were saying, the people in there, they'll have creative ideas, they'll do some good little things, they'll do some funny little spots, or they'll use the building and things like that to do some stuff. But it almost felt like they'd been told, you can't, you can't use the building or something like that. It almost felt like there was some sort of restrictions on what they could and couldn't do, like with the space that they had there. Whereas obviously when, in the Tony Khan one in Jacksonville and things like that, they've got free reign to do like absolutely whatever. So it definitely felt a bit more restricted here. But just some of the stuff it just didn't like. Again, I was thinking of you in different points during this. I was thinking of you here when there was that 7-person leveraged abdominal stretch where they were like holding arms through the rooms and up the aisle.
With us, very Shakara, that very Shakara. Like,
awful, like absolutely, like terrible. That fucking Leo Rush fucking popping up with an appearance backstage, and you're just like, come on, I just don't even want to see him on my telly, like full stop here, and then like giving him that bit in there. It's Luchasaurus looking like E.T. in his blonde wig at ringside with the Andrade spot, like been brought in there. Like Jericho, you put the tennis balls in the ring. Like I know that would butch if someone suplexed you on some fucking tennis balls, but like I was like, oh come on, just like too far on the nose. And then the tennis spot like in the back with the giant racket with Luther and things. I was just like, oh, this is just
Luther's linked to Jericho, by the way. His bag carrier in real life. Like what's that got to do with anything?
That's literally that door opened. I saw him and I was just like, oh yeah, get your mate a spot then, kind of thing. And then that was fucking.
Could have at least been Jim Cornette, couldn't it? That would have made sense if Jim Cornette's had the giant rocket.
Yeah, I thought I was thinking Jim Cornette. I was thinking if that was a Cornette when the door opened, literally in the moment, that would have been all right. At least that's kind of a bit like unique. The fucking like. Jack Perry though, with his like leaving his note on the golf cart of like wait here or whatever he's written on it, so Mark Davis would wait there so he can drive a bus into him, kind of thing and stuff. It was just like pure Roadrunner, fucking Wile E. Coyote stuff, like in there. Just again lame. I just thought the only thing I liked in the whole match was Clark Connors hit a fucking spear on Bobby Lashley that looked cool as fuck. Like it looked so well, like so well delivered and so well executed. But then, like, honestly, there was nothing that was, you know me, like against probably people's expectations. I love hokey kind of little comedy shit in wrestling that's actually good, kind of thing. And I don't think there was one thing in this was actually hokey, well thought out, clever comedy in any way. It felt like it was all just designed at the last minute and just none of it worked well. I thought this was utter shit. And then I think like coming off the back of the last pay-per-view that we reviewed, I think we were talking about like, oh yeah, if this is what he's about, and he's not going to be taking over things, and he's just going to kind of like, he's going to work at a certain, and he's happy to lose, and he's not on TV doing interviews all the time and things like that. Then like, sorry, Simon in the chat saying I look like I'm remembering Nam in the light. But we can see
that. It's great.
My 1,000-yard stare thinking about this. But now you get this where he's in there with the Bucks and he's in there with Okada. We come to the ring with Jericho's music as they're walking to the ring on the video. Jericho's the man at the front. Like at the end of the match, it's like Team Jericho have won, and then like Jericho's getting the thumbs up off the Hurt Syndicate in the middle of the ring. Jericho's doing his Taz tribute. His Sabu tribute at the end, like going through the table, and like I was just like, fuck, this is just like, here we are, back again, 40-minute vehicle for Chris Jericho here at this point, isn't it? Which, like, I genuinely didn't think we were getting this time around, and I was prepared to give him the benefit of the doubt, but more fooled me.
It really is that. It is what have we got for Chris this week? Like that becomes the conversation when he's around, and it has become everything I'm worried about. Like the 15 minutes of Dynamite every week gets wasted on what a Chris Jericho's program of the month is. He's one of the people, one of the 6 or 7 people that Tony's, well, what have we got for him this week? He's back in that world, and it's in 2026. You know, this is the type of thing that was happening in 2020, and it was like, all right, it's not too bad. You know, a lot of it's effective, but like, yes, diminishing returns in the match type and diminishing returns in what you're getting out of that. And it's just, that was the thing. This match was a mix of people who probably could have done without being on the card, and a mix of people who like, you should be on the card doing something much more fucking significant than being in the Jericho-verse, and that's pretty much what everybody was here. Just gigantic waste of time for me, and yeah, it worries me what these pay-per-views are going to look like this year when we've always got to carve out that slot for Jericho, and this was yet another excuse. And yeah, not that I haven't enjoyed any of it so far, really. I think the initial Ricochet match aside, you know, exceed the expectations, and even I had to kind of concede that, but post that, just don't need it in AEW. Again, it's 2026. It'll be 2027 soon, and he'll still be on fucking telly, yucking it up and eating up time, you know? I joke about it, but Big Bill's on his way out of AEW. Like, give this fucking time to Big Bill. Like, what a different world it could have been if he got some of that TV time, but there we go. Such as being stuck in the vortex.
You know, you look at the people in the match, though, and you think, like, the Bucks have been really good on TV, like, of late. Start of the year, Kenny Omega looked like back to his best almost, or as better than you could ever hope him to be in 2026, physically and motivation and that side of things. Like, Andrade's been class, like, since he returned. You know, Mark Davis has been brilliant. The Demand, all three of them just work as a trio, and Ricochet's been doing good stuff, and the Demand just as a tag team and like different things. They've all done good stuff. There's like 8 people who just sucked into this match who've been really good and had to just be like served up this utter shit that they've got to be part of just so because Chris Jericho can. And like, you think like, Christ, I'd imagine I'd much rather have had like a 10-minute tag team match there where you know, Leona and Bishop Khan are in there with like Lashley and Shelton Benjamin just knocking hell out of each other for 10 minutes or something like that. That would have been a much better use of time on this, or you know, any combination of the people as discussed there. Like,
massively,
it was the only thing on this pay-per-view that was shit. Like, everything else was at least you know good, but the majority of it I thought was really good. But that stunk.
Unfortunately as well, the way we've you know, put this show together, it's the last thing we're talking about here. And I really enjoyed this pay-per-view, but that was very clearly, you know, the low point, maybe outside of maybe one of the women's matches there, but like clearly the low point as far as my entertainment value went on this show. But you know, after that, there was the main event, which was, you know, very good, and you know, it did like I said, maybe suffer a little bit from a bit of exhaustion there, but overall the crowd we're still into it. We got an intriguing ending coming out of it, and we got a pay-per-view with multiple matches that you know, we both enjoyed there to varying degrees. Like, as we kind of alluded to in the weekend show, you know, we have these misgivings about the booking. You can always trust AEW when it comes to pay-per-view time, and you know, I've seen some talk about this. I think Tony says it in his presser post show, like that this was one of the great AEW pay-per-views. I think it was, to me, I'd almost give it a compliment, but say it was just yet another very good AEW pay-per-view. I don't know if I would necessarily put it head and shoulders above much in its past catalogue, but my compliment is how consistently are they this good? How consistently are they this very good? But I don't know whether it falls in the pantheon for you.
I think it's one of the greatest pay-per-views that they've done. Like, I was sitting back reflecting on this today, and while it doesn't have that 4.75 5-star match on it, like,
maybe that's what it is. Yeah.
You know, I'm going through here and I'm just thinking the opener with the tag with Copeland Cage and FTR's like easily a 4-star match for me. Like the Takeshita Okada is like, you know, 4.25. Like the Athena Mina Shirakawa, I said like sort of 3.25. Mux Kyle O'Reilly like 3.5. You know, Joe Ospreay 4.25. Swerve Bandido sort of in that 3.75-4 territory for me. Same with the women's 4-way 3.75. The main event I fucking really enjoyed. Probably put up at like, you know, even like 4.5 territory for me. That main event, I enjoyed it that much. So take the Stadium Stampede match out of the equation, and like how many pay-per-views exist in history of wrestling where there are that many matches that you would like peg at 3.75 or above? Like not many. I
probably AEW ones.
I genuinely think this is in the top top 5, if not top 3 AEW pay-per-views when it comes to start to end, like quality, like start to end. And I tell you now, it's the best event that's ever been run in New York.
I'm trying to think, is there another? Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'd plug for Manhattan Mayhem from ROH, but we haven't covered that yet on the Patreon. But it didn't have a match as good as pretty much anything on this show. So yeah, I think that's fair, and it does seem to be like that is one thing I have seen out there, quite a popular take from a lot of people. I'd switch the main event and Joe Ospreay. If you're saying 4.25 and 4.5, I'd probably go the other way around, 4.5 and 4.25. But really, it puts my ratings at the same place at the end of it. And maybe the lesson here is just how spoiled people like me are on what we get from AEW. We get these shows up and down a lot, don't we? But maybe to your point, maybe not quite as consistent as far as those multiple 4-star matches. But it does feel like AEW comes close to this, if not hits it so often, and it's only in its like fucking 6-year history that we've gotten this glut of shows. I think the consistency, if anything, is the big thing for me. Like, you can always guarantee it, no matter what we think of the TV going in. And it's not like we hated it. We just, we're quite critical of some of the bits outside of the world title picture, but you don't go in any doubt either, do you? There's a reason. Like, it's being talked up, this one, as being possibly 150,000 as far as like buys go. Like, there's a reason those buys stay high, don't they? You can guarantee you're going to get your money's worth. If you're a fan in New York going to this thing and playing a lot fucking less than you will be to go see WWE at the Barclays or whatever like that, you're going to get your money's worth. You're not going to get nickel and dime and giving 4 matches, and as much as I love them, a Danhausen segment, you're going to get like a lot of bang for your buck. You might have to pay for an Uber all the way back into the center of New York afterwards, but outside of that, you're getting a very good experience and very much your money's worth anytime AEW come into town. And again, it does feel like New York is, to your point, an AEW town now, and this run of great shows in that area just is the reason why.
And I can't remember the last time I watched a pay-per-view in America or Japan where I thought, like, I was watching it thinking, fuck, I wish I was in the building. Like that, and like, again, it's probably down to the crowd and the aesthetic and the actual building and things like that in accompaniment to the ring work. But I was watching it just thinking, like, fuck, I wish I was there. This would be a really, really cool show to be at. This one, it sort of feels like one of those that would like live long in your memory if you'd been in the building for it as well. So I did have in my mind, I was thinking, fucking hell, if they run there again, like, I'd maybe consider going. But then you think you said in the chat that they'd locked the car park or something. So
yeah. Like, again, it's not even like this didn't run late, did it? Like, I was looking on in my AEW, I was pleasantly surprised by the runtime. Like, I knew the pre-show was the first hour. I was like, yeah, it's dead on 5 hours, pretty much. Means a 4-hour pay-per-view. That's actually Tony Khan being quite conservative. So yeah, apparently they locked the car park and 15,000 people couldn't get back in Queens or get into the cars. I don't know if that got sorted out. Walt's in the chat there. Maybe you can tell us, but yeah, apparently this happens as well when they run next door at Arthur Ashley. There's often these problems too. But hey, it's not our problem. It's a bit like the World Cup coming up, isn't it? I don't know if you've seen all that conversation online about like Europeans thinking they can walk to the stadiums in New York to get there, and Americans being like, you're probably not going to like those highways you have to walk down European. But they're just lazy, aren't they, mate? They can't do it like we have. So I imagine they're all New Yorkers who had to practice that run.
That's my only concern though now is if you go to something like that and you've had a good experience and then you have that shitty thing at the end there with you, you might get 10,000 people who next time go, you know what, I'm not going, kind of thing. I can't be asked, like with the travel people or something like that.
To get out, like just hemmed in like tens of thousands of people kind of climb fences to get out of the crush of people because no one could go anywhere in any direction. It did look fun coming out of it, but the show was good enough that hopefully it will make up for it. I believe everybody got home in the end. It's happened before with WrestleMania. Did the be just as bad? There you go. Throw that in there as well. But I mean, after the show, Manu stayed late, and I've been in that position, waiting for an AEW presser to end post-show, even after a long show. So who knows how Tony got home? But he was in the press conference afterwards. Not a huge amount to say newsworthy coming out of it. Again, was asked about the idea of running a big event during Mania. What would be Mania weekend next year while WWE in Saudi? Called it potentially viable. So there's a green light, Gareth. It's coming. It's happening, hopefully. Talked about my AEW having multiple wrestling promotions on it, not just apparently a QT Marshall's promotion is on it right now, one FW, but there will be others being added to the mix as well. By the way, folks, I know I'm moaning about my AEW a lot. Clear your cache. That worked for me a little bit today. I went on the app on me TV, cleared the cache in the background. I stopped getting the spinning wheel of doom. I got a lot of pixelation instead, but it fucking worked a lot better. And it works better on my phone too as well. Same internet, same VPN if I do choose to put that on. Don't know what's going on, but yeah, try clearing your cache, make some space on your TV app, and maybe that'll sort you out if you have similar issues. Sounds like a few people on the Discord have the same. Outside of that, yeah, asked about differentiating ROH from AEW, and yeah, couldn't really give an answer. And yeah, said that CML president was backstage there as well for the show. Talked about AEW returning to Arena Mexico as well, and seemed optimistic. I suppose the big headline is coming on talking AEW's future as far as Paramount Skydance there and Warner Brothers Discovery merger. Did sound like he's expecting still to get a deal even post that as well. Apparently Ospreay was there too, talking up all in at Wembley as he should. But yeah, any notes from any of that? Anything stand out as far as newsworthiness?
No, it seems like quite standard stuff, doesn't it? It feels like, going over old ground a little bit there with some of those questions, and
should definitely run Mania, shouldn't he?
The usual straight back with some of those, but they that's too big an opportunity to miss that. If they can run that, and if they can then like independent shows and things can piggyback off it, and then it just becomes it feels like a win that for AEW to do that, and especially in a world now where things are going good for them, aren't they? In terms of live crowds, in terms of in terms of TV and things like that. If it feels like something that they can credibly pull off, then I think they definitely should, because there's going to be a lot of wrestling fans there who've nothing to do that weekend other than sit to try and watch something on TV. So you might as well try and get them in one place and benefit over the Fed.
Fingers crossed. But yeah, really, that's pretty much it coming out of the pay-per-view. I was going to say there isn't much else to go through. I'll be going through the news with Matty on Thursday on the weekend show. But Matty did ask, obviously, he will have seen his Instagram post today, to give a big shout out. Obviously, it is the big birthday of, the tribal chief, the leader of the clan of, that big wrestling dynasty. You've got to give credit where it's due to the tribal chief, Gareth. So obviously I will be saying happy birthday to the big dog, my dad, Andy Benson. Happy birthday to the dad. I don't think it's anybody else's birthday today. Oh, sorry, he said wrestling dynasty, did he, Gareth? I think that's what he meant. Particular wrestling family. Are there any other wrestling birthdays that are happening today you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, come on, you've got to be fair to the lad, haven't we? He's a big fan, isn't he? So, we've got to talk about one of the greatest bloodlines in wrestling. We've got to talk about one of the great wrestling dynasties. Happy birthday to your dad, by the way. But yeah, when it comes to bloodlines in wrestling, it comes to great wrestling dynasties, how could we not say happy birthday to Bo Dallas on the show today as well? So happy birthday, Bo. Hope you've had a good one.
I see you got to have Bo Dallas's birthday on his Google Calendar somewhere, but yeah, that's a big one. I don't see what else it is. He better be on fucking Raw tonight, not Bo Dallas, the other bloke who clearly Matty wants us to wish happy birthday to. Skipping your birthday when you're 40 or something like that for work. Come on, mate, I'm old. You're not 8. Americans do that anyway, though, don't they? They all take their birthdays way too seriously when they're past the age where it should matter at this point, Go to the pub, have a pint. There you go. That's your birthday celebrated. You don't need to do anything else.
Should be getting a cake in his face on telly and good wrestling tradition.
There you go, yeah. Maybe
better than dog meat.
Dog food. Yeah, don't do dog food and then but Baron Corbin's rumoured to be coming back, so who knows what could happen there. But there you go. I'm sure we'll be celebrating, in Matty's words, the big man's birthday on Thursday. And I have actually seen a minute of Saturday night's main event, and despite not trying, Gareth, I've also not been spoiled on it. That's how insignificant that show was on Saturday. But I'll be watching that before Thursday and getting that in. I'll have a Benno and Hamlet out this weekend outside of Grapple 2. Me and you will be doing Raw Roulette at the weekend too. And obviously, yeah, it's the big one, Clash in Italy. Although they have got 3 pretty big matches for that, which me and Matty will be previewing on weekend show and then reviewing on another spotlight just like this early next week. But yeah, will you be watching that, Gareth, or anything else for you you'd like to throw out there to plug that you're looking forward to more so than that?
Yeah, not a chance. I'm watching Saturday night's main event, so I'll leave the true review of that to come from yourself, Benno.
Big Ethan Page fan,
once you've I Don't mind him, but yeah, I like him, but not that much. I might, that Clash in Italy card does look stacked, sort of thing. So yeah, that's got to deliver, hasn't it? Really, that one. It's got to be a great show. That one, I think, with such a strong card for that one. So yeah,
all 5 of the matches. You know,
be pretty disappointing if that's not a great show. That one. But talking of great shows, also recording other than what you've mentioned there. Me and Matty will be recording Bretro this week. We'll also be recording the next episode of Stone Cold Crazy as well. So you'll be getting those landing in your feeds over the next couple of weeks as well. So yeah, plenty more content coming your way.
Brilliant stuff. And yeah, just a reminder, you can always join us live for these spotlight reviews, as well as our weekend shows, as well as everything else we do pretty much. It's always live on the Sundays with the Matty Edwards pre-show as well, usually double duty with a big retro show, like we did this past weekend with Lucha Underground as well. But yeah, patreon.com/grapple for that, youtube.com/@grapple for that as well. And on top of that, if you are missing the episode of Time, you're thinking, what happened to Time? It is available, but it's on the Patreon. But it is free because we're not assholes, so you can get it on there. We are assholes sometimes, but sometimes we're not. So if you are looking for that, and head over to the Patreon. You don't have to pay us a penny. You can hit play. You can get your video, you can get your audio, and you can tune into what Liam and you lads were chatting this month.
And I put a fucking lot of work into that this month to get all them images lined up to be on screen as we're talking about them as well. So yeah, give it a listen. Reward me for my effort.
There you go. Not upsetting the copyright gods, unlike the first couple of minutes of that thing. But anyway, it got sorted in the end, so it did break through. But there we go. You can get it safer on the Patreon than anywhere else. But yeah, good job you guys did as far as managing that too. Nice one, Gareth. But yeah, outside of that, like I say, catch us for the weekend show with me and Matty, probably early on Thursday afternoon. And as always, thank you, live patrons, for tuning in live with us, our live YouTube members, as well as our Patreon kings and queens of the mountain, Coral Laughlin, Eddie Sideburns, Chris Platt, Carl Gack, Sophia Hitchcock, Sam Mulvaney, Marty Ellis, and honorary King of the Mountain going forward from this week, Dylan Shaw. We will catch you all again on the next one. Good night, all. Happy birthday, Andy. And Bo Dallas.
See ya. I'm not saying it.